In this session, we're going to design problem-solving scenarios that encourage critical thinking. The learning objective for this session in the AI Educator series is to use Gemini Canvas to develop complex, multi-layered problem-solving scenarios and instructional materials to challenge high school students to apply critical thinking. They align with the ISTE standards to use tech to create assessments and are found within the profile of an AI-ready graduate. So in today's session, we're asking, how do I use AI to make my curriculum more rigorous? Teaching in an environment where basic answers are a click away, our role has shifted. We need to move away from students just thinking of algorithmic thinking, where they just follow a set of steps to a known answer, towards complex problem solving. We want them to wrestle with scenarios where data is messy, where there are conflicting interests at stake, and there isn't a top result in a search engine or a single paragraph AI summary that can solve instructional challenges for them. In this session, we're going to use Gemini Canvas to create complex, multi-layered problem-solving scenarios that challenge your students' critical thinking skills. With this in mind, before we dive in, let's think about some of the things we want to take away from this session. So here is an overview of Canvas within Google Gemini Chat. And by using the Gemini Canvas side-by-side interface, we can refine a complex narrative in real time so you can isolate different pieces of it and continue to iterate. You aren't just generating text, you're editing and scaffolding its complexity. The goal is for you to create this friction and that forces your students to think critically and without taking hours of your time to do so. So we're going to jump into the Gemini app, gemini.google.com, and what we're going to do is we're going to kind of imagine that we're teaching a unit on the ecology of an urban city focusing on water rights. We're choosing this topic because there's not one solution that makes everyone happy, so it's a complex problem involving constitutional law, environmental science, and economic survival. So we'll start by opening Gemini and locating our Gemini chat. And then in the prompt box, we'll click on Tools and make sure we have flipped over to Canvas. So I will go ahead and do that right now. Here's Google Gemini. And over here, we have New Chat, which is, if you just open it up, should be the default. Then I'm going to click on the plus button here, which will open up my tools. And I'm going to scroll down to Canvas. So again, plus button, scroll down to Canvas. So at the bottom, you should see it right there. Then I'm going to put my prompt in here, which is the case study, as mentioned, and I'm going to click Submit. As it starts functioning, you will see a second pane open up on the right-hand side, which will help support this usage and iterations, and we still have the chat version that we can dig in on the left-hand side. But perhaps we want to kind of dig in a little bit on what the farmers have to say as we scroll through. We have the legal landscape, we have stakeholder A, stakeholder B, stakeholder C, the policy matrix, the crisis timelines. You can see everything here is going through. If we wanted to isolate anything on here, we could look up and find something very specifically to what we want to isolate. So there's a legal landscape, there's what we need to. So if we wanted to highlight just this piece right here, and we wanted to add in a specific paragraph, we can ask it to do so by just highlighting Ask Gemini here, or we can change the length or change the tone and suggest edits in that instance. So we could absolutely have that ability to change it and not have to change the whole item, the whole output that's already here. We can just isolate this one area and have it do its work, which is an amazing aspect of the tool. And then we could ask it for sure to be able to, for instance, make the farmer's data more nuanced, including information about their specific crop yields and local debt cycles. So if we wanted to be able to do that, we can go in here to the agriculture area, but we can even ask definitely a specific area within here to say, okay, I want to isolate one thing. But let's see if I put this in the chat here. Make the farmer's economic data more nuanced, including information. And it's thinking. It's good because that means it's doing its work. It won't be instant. Oh, and then of course there is going to be something where we're running into the error right at the moment. So that is okay. Oh, it's going to come, so I might have to revisit that. But the idea of what we have put together here is that you can iterate and you can highlight different aspects of it and being able to bring those items together for yourself. So I do want you to try this yourself. And what you're going to do when you are working on this is you are going to head over to Gemini and open up the chat and add in the focus on Canvas. And so you can consider one of these ideas to get started. For instance, science teachers asking for a lab report with intentional methodology. English teachers, you can generate a lost scene from a play and have students argue it where it fits best with tone and meter. Social studies teachers, you can create two conflicting eyewitness accounts of a historical event that students must reconcile. Math teachers, a geometric proof that contains one logical fallacy for students to identify and disprove. And physics teachers, a series of motion data sets for an object in free fall, like a bouncing ball. So there's lots of opportunities in here to kind of take this idea and be able to go in and iterate for what you need. So we want to kind of use that scenario to be able to provide not a quick answer, but the ability to perform high-level analysis. And it's not about finding the answer, it's about navigating challenging situations and thinking critically and problem solving. So we could focus in on what we need to do there. So once you decide on that focus, you can use the following prompt framework for what you want. You can draft a 500-word case study regarding your topic, and then have a conflict between stakeholder A and B, ensure that there's no clear ethical or logical winner, and provide a list of 3 conflicting primary sources that support different sides of the argument. So in this case, we could ask it to kind of go in and focus on whether you wanted to do something within the environment, or whether the AI data sets are a benefit to data centers, are a benefit to society or hurting the environment. And so we can go back to our Gemini chat. I'm going to click New Chat. I'm going to ensure that it's in Canvas mode. And here's kind of the so draft a 500-word case study regarding, I'm going to say, global warming that presents a conflict between stakeholder A and stakeholder B. Ensure there is no clear ethical, logical winner. Provide 3 conflicting sources. And then I can aim this for a grade 10 level class. So I'll see what it'll come up with. So of course it continues to think And here's our pop-up, so we can kind of look up here. Case study, the energy dilemma, economic survival versus global climate action. We have the executive summary and background, the conflict, the core dilemma, some primary sources, and some questions here. If I wanted to change anything, I could highlight over it and ask it to iterate. In here, I can click on this drop down and get it to create any infographics, even some flashcards or an audio overview. And I could prompt this to kind of get into slides if I wanted to as an output. So that's what I really love about Canvas and the iteration and being able to isolate what you want to have happen. So we're going to go back here. I'm going to prompt you to pause your screen, pause the feed, and I want you to try to put in that same prompt, draft a 500-word case study regarding whatever topic you want, and give it a grade, and then iterate afterwards to make sure you are highlighting sections or either adding more complexity or changing tone. So when you're done that, you can come back here and we'll continue. All right, welcome back. Well, hopefully you're able to dig in a little bit on using Canvas in this fashion to provide different opportunities for critical thinking. So as you go through, it's like, what did you kind of struggle with during this, or what kind of specific aha moment did you have during this exercise? How can you use Canvas and this tool to differentiate for your students? And then what's one thing you can kind of put into your practice this week as you're thinking about some learning activities that you will in your classroom? So once you've done all that, of course, taking time to go through Canvas in Gemini Chat, you would be able to kind of understand the basics as what it means to be using Canvas. So I encourage you to continue to learn more about it or rewatch this session, and then go to goo.gle/GES11, and you will pop up on a page that looks like this, the Google AI Educator series, and you can continue your learning journey here. Again, us giving you the overview of that context, and you can click on Earn Your Badge, which will give you a short multiple choice situations and scenarios in which you could earn your micro badge here for designing problem-solving scenarios. So with that, we thank you for your time, and we value your feedback, so you can scan this QR code as well as put the URL in that you see on screen, or locate it within any of the documentation for the session you've signed up for.